Hello everybody, this is Niclas Huschenbeth and today I would like to do as requested by Clemens Mix, who asked for the Taimanov Sicilian. So another chess opening tutorial, and well, I should show the comment for sure. Here's Clemens Mix. He asked, could you do a similar video about the Sicilian Taimanov, and that's what we're going to do in this video. If you haven't seen my video about the Sicilian, Open Sicilian as a whole, an overview, I definitely recommend you to do that first, but we can also go into this as well. Alright, so what is the Sicilian Taimanov? Let's start with the opening moves. Here we have the Sicilian first of all, and now we go into the Sicilian Taimanov. Black goes knight c6, knight to c3, white also develops this knight to c3, which is the typical square in the Sicilian for this knight, supports the pawn on e4 and keeps an eye on the square on d5. Now black goes queen to c7, and already here white has different ways to play, but typically all the lines start with bishop to e3. The bishop, as in many Sicilians, is well placed on e3. He supports the knight on d4, and now white can, if he wants to, prepare the queenside castle. Also, the bishop is helping to guard this diagonal. Now black goes a6. He could also play a move like knight f6 here, but let's focus on the main line, which is the move a6, a very useful move in the Sicilian to prepare to push b5 and also to take away any knight db5 trickery moves here by white. And here white has to make a choice. He can either aim for the short castle by developing this light squared bishop to e2 or d3, or he can aim for the long castle by going queen to d2 or queen f3. A lot of errors. Let's go into the different lines. So bishop e2 is one move, but here, because black hasn't played d6 yet, he can still bring out his bishop all the way to b4. He can also keep the bishop on f8 and play something like this, knight f6, castle d6, which is a typical chevening position. Actually, now we have kind of transposed to another line where black plays like this, goes castle, and then it's a more slow play, even though maybe sometimes white can also push g4, g5. He has to be careful though, as this obviously would also weaken his own king. But in most cases, black plays bishop to b4 and he puts pressure on the pawn on e4, threatening bishop takes c3. And from here, the play can develop in different directions, and I don't want to spend too much time on any individual line, but there's some concrete play going on here. Now bishop d3 is another move which I've played in the past. Here this bishop b4 move doesn't make that much sense because the pawn on e4 is already protected, and typically black plays something like this, knight f6, castle, and now either takes on d4 and plays bishop c5, trying to exchange some pieces, which is I think quite fine for black, or he goes knight to e5, threatening to go knight g4. And this is something you always want to avoid, that black, let's say we play some random move, goes something like this and exchanges your bishop on e3. The bishop on e3 is really an important piece in the Sicilian in general, so you want to keep it most of the time unless you get something tangible back in return. So here white has to do something against this threat, and the move that I liked is the move bishop e2. And once again, it can really go in all kinds of directions here, bishop b4, b5, knight c4, many different moves for black, and the play becomes quite sharp, or can become quite sharp. Knight takes c4 is the more quiet move. Black can also play something like b5, and just to say some general words, what black will do here, will bring the bishop to b7, bring the other bishop to e7 most of the time, and then castle short side, and then open up his play on the c file, and maybe, if possible, wants to push d5. d5 is the typical Sicilian break that you want to accomplish anyway, but you have to be careful that it's well timed and that white doesn't have something good against. But this is usually the break black plays for. Alright, so those were the more quiet lines, bishop e2 and bishop d3. Now let's look at the more sharp lines. Queen to d2. Black goes knight to f6. Castle. And now, of course, the game can once again develop in all kinds of directions, but let's just have a look at b5. And now white does something like this, f3. This is a useful move in many different Sicilians because it protects the pawn on e4 once more, takes away the square on g4 from the black knight, and also supports white in pushing g4 himself later on. This can become incredibly sharp. Black can develop the bishop to b4, he can bring the bishop to e7. In both cases, white has this option to push here, to go to g5, push this knight away, and it gets really sharp. Black, of course, also has his options himself, playing b4. But this is nothing for the faint-hearted. You have to know your theory here, otherwise it might get dangerous. But both for white and for black. And now, lastly, I want to take a look at this move, which I consider to be the best move and the most dangerous move for black. Queen f3, which has only become popular in the recent years. Once again, white is preparing to castle queenside. And the white queen is quite well placed here on f3, surprisingly. The attack with knight e5 doesn't do too much because white just plays queen g3, actually pinning the knight. This is one line, but this pin is also a little bit annoying for black. So the main line here is to go knight f6, now castle, and now to go knight e5 after all, queen to g3 and b5. But this is quite tricky. There are a lot of lines to know. White can push f4 now and even push e5 now. There's bishop d2, bishop to g1. Many different moves, and black has to know them all quite carefully. And recently there was a game between Maxime Vachier-Lagrave and Vishy Anand, where actually in this position he took on b5, or did he play f3 first? But there are also these sacrifice on b5 in the air, which you have to consider as well. So incredibly sharp. No, he didn't play f3, maybe he played king b1, but there was some sacrifice on b5, and black has to know all of this stuff. Not easy. So I think queen f3 is the most dangerous, and it's also the most fashionable at the moment. If you're considering to play this line with black, then definitely check this carefully. And if you need something good with the white piece, then I recommend you to look into this queen f3 move, because it's not too hard to learn and it can become very dangerous for black very quickly. Okay, so this is my little overview over the Taimanov. I don't want to go into too much detail here, because otherwise it just gets out of hand, obviously. But I think those are the four main options that white has against the Taimanov in this position, either going for the short castle with bishop e2 or bishop d3. Well, there's also a move like f4 here, but I don't know much about it. Or, like I said, preparing the queenside castle when the game becomes much more sharp, when white plays queen to d2 or to f3. Alright, Clemens, I hope this covers your request about the Sicilian Taimanov. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and also let me know which openings you would like to see next, which other Sicilians should I cover. You can just write me in a comment, and if you enjoyed the video, you can subscribe for future content. Then I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.